Welcome back to the No Name Cinema Society, everybody. It's the Indie Spotlight time. And as you may recall, we have, last year we did indies from 5 years ago, and they were all from 2010. Now that it's 2016, we're doing indies from 2011, and that continues tonight with Robert Redford's film, The Conspirator. And now that I'm back in LA, you can see I'm back in my own apartment. I can speak as loud as I like. I can go back to my regular self, although my voice is starting to crack a little bit tonight. I'm a little nervous about that. Intros. Let's start with Drunk Davie over here. Davie, welcome back to the Indie Spotlight. Where are you? There you are.
I'm here.
There he is.
I'm excited.
J Money.
Hey, here I am too.
My other cohort here.
Conspirator, I believe.
Ah, yes. Well, that might be the case this time around. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this is our second consecutive indie with James Badge Dale in it.
Yeah. Big ups to James Badge Dale.
What's that?
Big ups. Big ups to James Badge Dale.
Yeah, he's like the new poster boy for the show here.
Which one was James Badge Dale?
James Badge Dale was one of the friends, one of the James McAvoy's friends in the film.
You mean Justin what's his name?
No, not the other one that wasn't Justin Long.
Because Justin Long has also come up in our indies for the year in general. But
what was he in another indie that we talked about?
Comet.
Oh yeah.
Oh right. Oh my God, I completely forgot about that. All right, so yeah, but James Badge Dale was back to back. You remember James Badge Dale and Shame, right?
No.
I do now that you've said it. I didn't put the two and two together.
He was the boss, that hit on the sister.
Right.
Oh.
Crazy.
Okay.
The boss and Shane that hit on the sister.
That's right.
Very similar roles.
I love to cut to Davie when the wheels are turning. So trivia, the trivia that you might have seen last week on our in our show and also on Facebook was that. Last week's Shame was directed by Steve McQueen, who went on to direct a film that won a Best Picture Oscar in 2013. Tonight's film was also directed by a person who directed a film that won Best Picture, albeit in 1980. In this case, Steve McQueen did not win Best Director, where Robert Redford did win Best Director in 1980. Do you guys know what film he won Best Director for?
Nope.
Deep Throat?
What did you say?
No, it wasn't Deep Throat, right?
It was not. I think you mean All the President's Men, which he did not direct. Ordinary People in 1980 was the Best Picture winner, and he won Best Director for that.
It was
Maybe
pretty
it might
close.
be a classic movie of the week at some point.
He said Deep Throat.
What's that?
What
What do you say?
Awesome. He said Deep Throat. That is.
I think he's
hilarious.
talking about All the President's Men.
I think maybe that would make sense.
Okay. Anyway, all right. So, The Conspirator. So this is the true story of the trial of Mary Surratt, a woman who owned a boarding house that John Wilkes Booth frequently visited and allegedly was the site for some meetings with his seditionist friends. Young attorney Frederick Aiken, played by James McAvoy, is assigned to defend Miss Surratt in spite of his own assumption of her guilt. And if this plot sounds at all familiar, you might, at least part of it is very similar to a film we discussed back in episode 18 called Bridge of Spies. There's a lot of connection between the two. This film is my recommendation. It appeals to the history buff in me. I think it's compelling with a lot of moral and legal ambiguity, and maybe Davie will talk a little bit about that. I think the craft elements are top-notch, and I think it is a career performance for James McAvoy. I actually listed it as the best performance of that year back in 2011, and I stand by that with Michael Fassbender right behind him, 1 and 1A. And then, of course, later in 2011, they would go on to star in X-Men First Class together. So I think it's a remarkable film. It looks like J Money does not think so. J Money.
No, I think it had all the appeal and sort of pizzazz of maybe watching like an educational film strip in a high school classroom. Just did not catch me in any way.
Wow.
And that's unfortunate because I had the exact opposite, reaction then and now. I mean, I found it pretty extremely compelling.
Yeah.
All the way through. I mean, like riveted. Davie Joe.
Yeah, likewise. I was captivated by this film, and I really enjoyed McAvoy's performance a lot.
Wow, this is a rare Davie, Joe, and JB twofer here. So in terms of breaking it down, I want to start with the direction here. And so this is, obviously Robert Redford. He is made, only a handful of films, known mostly as an actor. But I think there's a couple things that make this a super well-directed film. Several things, actually. One, the overall quality of the performances, especially given the style of the speech of the 19th century vernacular. Like the way that the actors made it sound natural, all of them sort of speaks to Robert Redford as a director. I think that the use of two shots, we don't see them a lot anymore. We see like a lot of young directors in particular are insistent on, going to cutting a lot of close-ups together. This film is not very cutty. There's a lot of long takes. There's one in particular that goes down a spiral staircase, and it's not a jib shot. It's it's really interesting shot, and it uses foreground. It's beautifully done, but subtle. It's not like showy like a lot of other young directors might make their long takes to be. I think that a lot of young directors also forget to use B-roll, second unit footage. A lot of that in this film that sort of sets the tone, especially for a low-budget movie to do as well with the craft as they did. Also, the level of detail in all those craft elements, costumes, etc. And then the other thing that gets forgotten, and that directors forget and editors forget sometimes, is reaction shots. And a lot of those in this film, I guess it's necessary in a courtroom drama like this, but a lot of those are, they enrich the film and I think enhance the drama, for me. So that's my pitch on the direction. What do you guys think? Anybody? Davie?
No, I concur. I thought that it's a movie that I think could have been really dry, and I guess J Money thought it was, but I thought that the way it was edited, the way it was put together, it never really slowed down for me. I stuck with it the whole way.
So I just listed a bunch of stuff, J Money, in terms of what choices Robert Redford made that I thought made this a special movie. What do you say that I disagree with? No, say this. What did I say that you disagree with?
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with everything that you described. I guess I disagree with the underall effect. For me, all those things sort of added up to creating sort of a dry and very old-fashioned kind of movie. It felt very didactic and straightforward because of that stuff, I think. I mean, I guess I felt like there wasn't really a lot of areas that he explored in this movie. It felt like a very straightforward telling of a story. Well, the one thing I will disagree with you is about the way that the language was handled. For me, there was a weird mix of people that sounded both modern and sounded like they were ripped from, sort of classic text. None of it sounded realistic to me. None of it sounded actually natural or kind of almost human to me. So
it's funny because I had the total opposite, complete opposite reaction. I mean, I thought everybody was on point with that. So that's a big like you're on the polar opposite side of that.
What about Justin Long? Did you feel like Justin Long?
Okay, he was the exception.
Okay.
I'll give you that.
I mean, he really stuck out to me. I wouldn't say that anyone else was nearly as bad as that. I think that everybody else was competent.
But I mean, he's such a small part of the overall picture. Like
he is. I'm not going to say that Justin Long ruined this movie for me in any sense. He didn't. I think for me, just overall, I felt like there just wasn't anything that compelling about any of the characters ultimately, and I don't think that Redford really got behind the characters or into the characters' lives enough to make it more interesting than simply a tale about a failing of our bureaucratic system.
Well, I mean, I disagree with that statement too, because I mean, I do think that one of the keys to this, I mean, one of the things that rises above the level of didacticism is the extremely compelling performance, I think, of James McAvoy here. I think that it is one of the reasons I thought it was the best performance of 2011 is it was one of those old school, and this is why I think maybe I like it and you don't, because I do think it is very an old school movie. And this is an old school leading man performance, but it was still a flawed hero, and that's some of the criticism that people give to something like To Kill a Mockingbird or Atticus Finch is almost too perfect, whereas this is a flawed hero. It's three-dimensional, but he has his arc, and he does it with charisma and passion, and also making those courtroom scenes were taken from the transcripts of the actual trial. And making those sound authentic and natural is extremely challenging. And I think that those are the elements that I think that it makes this deceptively special performance. Davie Joe.
Yeah, I mean, showing the struggle about whether to even take the case to begin with, in light of his having fought in the war and being, I think, genuinely destroyed as were a lot of people when Lincoln was assassinated. I really it was compelling to me how he had to wrestle with that and overcome any kind of prejudices in that way, and he really did come across with that struggle.
Yeah, and I think, in terms of something that Jay Money said a second ago, is he thought people sounded modern, and I interpret that as people taking the vernacular and making it sound natural to them, and I felt like there was an overarching direction that I thought worked. Like, it sounded, so what you interpret as modern, I interpret as natural, and it made them feel comfortable in this other period. The other thing that I thought was interesting is he made them wear their costumes around offset, so that they could, be comfortable, even in the Savannah heat, because this is what they would wear. I thought that was a really interesting concept.
I think that some of that has to do with the period and in the way, a Secretary of War and a senator and attorneys in court would speak versus the way people spoke, just out in the world, and there was that can account for the dichotomy. Now we all kind of sound a lot alike. We don't speak differently in different.
And also,
venues.
one of the things that I was thinking as Jay Money was talking was that they would sound different because about half the characters are from the South that had moved north, the seditionist characters, so they would sound different from the northern characters potentially, and maybe that's something that you were picking up on, perhaps. Were there any performances that you did enjoy? Because I thought they were across the board good, but except for Justin Long. I don't even think about him that much, but you're not wrong.
Well, I don't really have a problem with James McAvoy's performance. I just wouldn't say it was a standout for me. I thought it was certainly competent. Robin Wright also, I thought, very competent in the role that she was given. Everybody else kind of felt a little bit too much like a caricature to me, but other than that,
Even Kevin Kline and Tom Wilkinson, I thought they were outstanding.
They were on screen for like 5 minutes.
Oh, I don't think so. Kevin Kline's the bad guy, ultimately. And what I thought was really fascinating about this movie is he is a bad guy. He's the heavy, but he's got a point of view. And that's where I thought some of the moral ambiguity comes in. And I love it when the bad guy has a point of view that is potentially valid. History tells us it's not really, but the way he made it work, the way that he made the character believe it, I thought that was very compelling.
I think the fact that you've been using the word like bad guy to describe him, this is a real life human being, says something about the way
history would show that Stanton was an asshole. You know what I mean? That is what it is. It's a true story. So I call him a bad guy to simplify it, but.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I guess I feel like this movie did simplify a lot of things. It wasn't.
So, if people were making a history about the Gulf War and they characterized Dick Cheney, wouldn't he be the bad guy?
Yeah, probably, but then that would make it a movie that would characterize Dick Cheney as a bad guy. That wouldn't necessarily make it laudable. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the best performance if they did that.
Well, no, but
I'm saying, I wasn't trying to undercut it by calling him a bad guy. I wanted to get a sense that I wanted to explain that he also, from his point of view, is three-dimensional, and I thought that was interesting. I thought.
Well, I guess I would say that I don't think that his character was three-dimensional. I think that you're saying is that he added an aspect of moral ambiguity to the storyline, and that made him three-dimensional. But
he made that work too. Because it's hard to justify his actions through a modern prism. But the way he portrayed the character, convinced me that he believed what he was doing is right.
Well, I'm sure that was definitely true. But I think that arguing about the historical accuracy of this movie is, it's
that's not. I don't think that's what I'm talking about the performance. I'm talking about the choices he made as an actor.
But we're also talking about the believability of Henry Seward in this point, right? Because we're talking about whether or not there's a believability.
Stanton is his character. Seward was the Secretary of State.
It's interesting to note, for instance, that Mary Surratt actually had two lawyers that were present throughout her proceedings, not just one, not just Aiken. There was actually two people, but they clearly condensed them and decided to make them into Aiken in some capacity. There's a lot of things that are very accurate to the story based on what I've read, and then there are a lot of things that were just kind of tossed in there to sort of help flesh things out, and I understand why they did that, but overall that adds up to a thing that makes it more about a didactic experience for me as opposed to an actual sort of investigation of the history behind this.
I mean, I thought it was both. I mean, it's funny because, I mean, what's the difference between a didactic experience and an investigation into the history? Like, do you feel the film was preachy? Because I feel like that's where Bridge of Spies failed and this movie succeeded. Because I feel like Bridge of Spies felt heavy-handed and preachy, whereas this did not. To me,
I don't feel like this felt preachy, but I do feel like it definitely came out at a time for this reason. And it's funny because I didn't realize this until I went back and looked at some other articles about the movie later. But I guess a lot of reviewers at the time made the connection between this movie and information about Guantanamo Bay, because I felt like there was a lot of crossover in the idea of a military tribunal and about the idea of people held without their rights.
Well, and yet this film was in development for years. So I mean, like, this movie comes out at several different times in history, and there's parallels to something that's going on,
Well, that's a sad state for our country, then, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, potentially.
Yeah. If it came out in 2011.
It's a sad state for a lot of different countries.
Yeah.
So a couple different things. Two quick things I want to talk about is I just want to point out like how amazing the cinematography was. I mean, even you, Jay Money, have to acknowledge the. I mean, every shot looked like a Renaissance painting to me.
I thought it was
all natural light. The use of smoke and underexposure, I thought, was absolutely gorgeous. Jay Money, you disagree?
Honestly, it's one of the things that really bothered me about this film. I gotta be honest.
This is amazing.
Sorry.
Davey, you're with me on this, right?
I am. I thought it was. I hadn't even heard about this movie, and it was great. It was.
The cinematography. I mean, like, this is beautiful cinematography, Jay Money. How can you?
I thought it was very flat, and I thought that they were over relying on this.
I mean, how could something with that much texture, with like the way that the smoke filled every room, and like and the way that the light hit the smoke? I mean, like, it was rich and it was underexposed just enough, like Gordon Willis level of underexposure. You know what I mean? I mean, like, they looked like Renaissance paintings to me. It looked like Vermeer.
Yeah,
it wasn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that there was and it wasn't too perfect. It was just a little. It was just a little imperfect.
Yeah.
Which made
production design too was just dirty enough. Like, it was, like the way they designed Washington D.C. of the time. It was mucky and stuff. Like, so wow, that's Newton Thomas Sigel is a great cinematographer. So I'm sorry you didn't like his work here, but
what else has he done?
I mean, I thought it was gorgeous. Like, and it fits the movie, like this Civil War era thing, the natural. I love the idea of natural light for something where electricity wasn't really used as much. So last thing, I want to turn to Davie real quick. And Davie, like, we don't have a lot of time, but this is a perfect movie for you in the sense, from a legal point of view. So I was hoping you could.
Well, I mean, to be honest,
on that a little bit.
Oh, this is super complicated stuff. All that the habeas stuff. For me to even talk about it is really dangerous because I don't. It's.
Are you gonna get sued?
No. I just mean it's just like anyone who knows about this stuff for real is going to cringe. The thing that I will say is that for the president to suspend habeas in that situation, it felt sort of dubious to me because I didn't really see any kind of emergency, any kind of imminent threat. I mean, if you want to use.
Well, that's where Stanton would disagree with you.
Well, I mean, look, everyone was, aside from her son, I guess there weren't a lot of people at large. It's not a situation like today with the terrorists and Al Qaeda still working and still at large. I don't know.
In fairness, that part did happen. I mean, obviously it was not.
Yeah, no, it totally happened. Absolutely.
But it also kind of is if you take and presume that idea that the South was still kind of in a moment of almost
Yeah, and I guess that was the argument that it could if they didn't do this quickly, there could be another war. The war could flare back up.
CJ Money justifying the bad guy's point of view. That's what I'm talking about. Rich texture, all this moral ambiguity in this movie. All right, I got to move on, guys. I want to have enough time to set up for the class. Are you guys good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Covered a lot of ground. I can't believe Jay Money didn't like this movie. I'm a little
sorry.
not gonna lie.
I'm sorry.
But wow, this is going to haunt us for the next 10 episodes to come. Anyway, I really thought, yeah. Oh my gosh, flabbergasted am I. The next indie we're going to do is not going to be for a while, because don't forget, next time we have the spectacular, our end of the year spectacular on February 26th. It's a Friday night. But the next indie we're going to do in March, and your clue is the next indie is from a director that is currently nominated for an Oscar for Best Director. So that's your one clue. But coming up in about 7 minutes is our classic movie of the week. It's called Educating Rita, and it's from 1983. And I'll talk a little more about that coming up very shortly. So indie spotlight's over, classics coming up. So check back in about 7 minutes for that link. See you guys later.